Now it's working. Okay, well, we had a little problem with the live stream before. And so this week we're going to be doing a Thanksgiving football spectacular. I'm going to try and break it down into several parts. I'm going to start off with the Winter's Dozen specific type of things. So if you're listening and you're not a fan of the league in general and you don't really give a shit, fast forward probably 20 minutes. And you're probably going to be safe by doing that. And we are live on YouTube. Some of you guys like to listen on YouTube if you're at work or whatever. So we're going to have all the podcasts, well, the solo ones at least, on here. So we also are going to be combining this with some of the state of the just random NFL tidbits. And then we're going to be ending with the Sunday Bloody, just because this week, so for last week, I had some technical issues and my Sunday Bloody recording was lost. So just remember that, or just assume that I got every single pick right and I got all that shit. But anyway, so instead of, being the Sunday Bloody, it's not, you're going to probably be listening to this either on your drive to Thanksgiving or whatever. So I would suggest not drinking a Bloody Mary unless you're fucking sadistic and want to just drink a gigantic, heavy Bloody Mary before you go eat yourself into oblivion. So what I'm considering you do, crack open a beer with me. I'm drinking Busch Light in honor of Skeet Squad because of his loss this week. But and if you're driving or riding in a car, obviously make sure you have a straw or at least a McDonald's cup to put the beer inside of, on top of ice. So people like Randy don't see you drinking beer on your fucking drive to wherever you have to go. And I mean, let's be honest, you're probably going to fucking need one because, you're going to see your family and you always, always, always need to be fucked up enough with that. And if you're traveling with children, Ball Channel, I'm speaking to you or any other your league members that we don't know you have children, be fucking responsible. Don't drink and drive. Pull over. Let your wife drive. Keep the kids strapped in wherever you put them, in the top or wherever. Then you can start drinking. So just be responsible, guys. Enjoy your fucking drive. And this episode is probably going to be a little longer than most, just as FYI. So if you want to break it down, I don't know. I was going to break it down, but you know what? Fuck that. You guys can fucking do that. It's not that hard. Oh, so I'm going to take a sip. I had a fucking great day at work today. We got the home stretch going down. It's Thanksgiving in 2 days. So what's better to do than just to have a fucking podcast and let everything fly off of my fucking tongue as I like to do. So before I get started with the Winter's Dozen recap of the last week, and it was a fucking doozy of a week, I have a few things to say before that. And if you want to check out our Redbubble store, please go ahead and do so. I have a couple of t-shirts on there and Winter's Dozen logo stuff. So just type in Winter's Dozen FFL in the search bar and they should pop up. I'm having a little bit of difficulty coming up with an actual like URL specific. So I made a bit.ly for our thing and it's on our Instagram page, I do believe. And yeah. Also, if you're fucking geek, okay, this is going to be a structured thing in the mind of Tyler. So that means it's going to be all over the fucking place. So sorry if you don't like that. It's just the way my fucking brain works. Welcome to my fucking life. And yeah, I know I cut my hair, Randy, and I'm not joining the fucking skinheads. I almost said something really bad. We're not going to go there because I don't think they're whatever. You know what? Fuck it. Whatever. So I also have a new Instagram page that I'm cautious by even saying this because I might get some fucking hate mail, but I do have an Instagram page for my personal photography and it is up there. It is at Glockner35ml and that that's GOLLAKNER 3535, like the numbers, not the letters, So Glockner 35mm. If you haven't fucking heard that, I did just a shit job of doing this. But yeah, I wanted to do an Instagram page dedicated to film photography, not necessarily digital, because I prefer to shoot photos, especially in, this is geeky talk, but I don't give a fuck. You guys can turn it off if you don't like it. I prefer to shoot 35 millimeter film rather than digital as far as still photos go. I don't know why. It's not an artsy reason. I like how it sounds when you click and shoot with a 40-year-old camera. I think it's kind of fascinating that you can take solid photos and better than most digital cameras can take with a fucking old ass camera. And I forget what movie I was seeing this in, but it was okay. It kind of like made me laugh, and I really liked it too. The analogy. Someone was, I think it was Kodachrome on Netflix. Yeah, it's just all about fucking shooting film, and it's stupid. But I like the quote that, do you like fake tits or do you prefer real tits? And the guy that was saying real tits was the one that was obviously in favor of the the 35 millimeter camera. So yeah, I like that better than fake tits. So fine, whatever. All right, on to the fucking podcast. Before you hear that rambling going on, we're gonna pull up this week's fantasy football for the Winter's Dozen. It was a fucking great time. It was a great week for fantasy football, and so much so that even today, this morning, we had a little bit of a controversy because of last night's game. The fucking Chiefs and the Rams game literally broke fantasy football last night. All of Yahoo didn't record any of the stats from the game. They thought it wasn't fair or something. So we woke up this morning and the standings were all fucked up because the Chiefs game wasn't recorded, and like I was in 8th place and Jordan was in 5th. Like there was a bunch of fuck ups. None of the point totals got added for whatever reason. So it was thankfully corrected. But my fucking God, was that a goddamn game? I mean, sucks that Mahomes was threw 2 picks late in the game. I mean, the one was kind of forced with I don't know. Wasn't really forced. The one he threw to Marcus Peters was his arm was hit. So I mean, I kind of give him a little bit on that, but he's trying to make a play, and it was a fucking great game. They even took a score away from the Rams, which was the right call. But man, I don't know what to say, because the football purist in me doesn't love no defense, but also the entertainment aspect of me was thoroughly entertained. I mean, it was like watching a fucking basketball game. Every time they got the ball, it's like, oh, yep, here they come, score. So it was a good week for me also. If you haven't noticed, I'm in a good mood after the Packers shitty lost. I won both leagues, Winter's Dozen and Bush Series. I won with the people who put in for the external Venmo pot. I won both of those, and also won my DraftKings leagues. We do a noon DraftKings league, and was able to stack Zeke, Saquon, and Antonio Brown. And the way I do that is I like to avoid staying away from the $6,000 players. I stick with 8,000, which is my fucking studs, which in this week, AB was 7,800. And I generally pay way low on tight end. So I went with James O'Shaughnessy for the Jaguars. And the reason I do that is because the odds that you can save, $2,000-$3,000 on a tight end, the odds of that tight end having like 6 or 8 less points than the top scoring tight end is pretty high. But when you talk about like someone like Tevin Coleman and versus Zeke Elliott, which is the two guys, I had OJ Howard originally in my lineup, and I had Tevin Coleman with it. And I swapped Tevin Coleman out for Zeke just to see what I could do, and I played O'Shaughnessy, who had 2 catches, but he had 3.5 points. OJ Howard was hurt, so ended up being the right call. O'Shaughnessy outscored him, I believe. I don't really know. I'm talking on my ass there. And I generally pay pretty low on defenses, just try and play my best matchups possible. Generally, I look for shitty offensive linemen, shitty offensive line, so I can get at least a baseline of a few sacks where I can get 5, 6, 7 points out of my defense. And then I also like to play the floor quarterback type of game where I look for quarterbacks that can have high rushing totals, and end up going with Dak, who didn't have a great game, but I was able to put in Saquon, Zeke, and AB, and that got me the fucking W. So Alex Collins, I believe, was my flex, so he got double value there. He's only $4,400, ended up with 7.5 points, just about double value. Still not great, but I mean, it is what it is. You can't do that much with a $4,400 player. So that's generally my strategy overall, and especially cash games, because I mean, tournaments, it's just a different ball game. You just fucking throw darts at the wall and hopefully you get a lucky game. But also, I like to play the Showdown Captain mode, which is a new thing with the DraftKings this year, and it's actually super fun. I like to play them typically on Sunday nights and or Monday nights or Thursday nights. Sometimes if I'm feeling crazy, I do Thursday nights too. That is to pick 6 players. You pick a captain, you pay like, I think it's 1.5 times their normal value. You pay that much, and then you also get 1.5 times points. So it's kind of a cool thing. And then you pick the 5 players, and you can also flex kickers, which I really like to do actually, as much as I hate kickers. I mean, you get a pretty good floor with a $3,200 player, and also you can play defenses as well. So last night, typically you win tournaments with like 120 points out of those six guys. Last night, I think the winner had 212. You had 3 guys go over 65 points, which, it's 1.5 times, but that was Mahomes. If you had Mahomes, Goff, or Tyreek Hill as your captain, you got over 60 points from one player. And then those guys that had Gurley I had Gurley and I was able to survive, ended up taking 9th in a tournament because I had Goff, Hill, and Mahomes all in my lineup. And then I had Gurley and the 2 kickers. So, I mean, it was a fucking great time. Great game. But anyway, okay, so we got off of that. We got off of that tangent, okay? Last week was a fucking great week in fantasy football, mainly because I fucking jumped over Skeet Squad and the Mount Crumpet ski team. That is Devin and Ty. We all knew it was going to happen, but this whole slogan of this fucking slander of New Year, New Furter for Ty. Well, it seems like it's New Year, same Furter, because he is out of the playoff race right now. He's been slowly falling down. Ty, I love you, but man, get your act together. This week we have, okay, so let's just go over the matchups from last week. So we had pretty solid games all around. We'll start with Pack Lives Matter versus Red Fury. No one thought there was a chance that Red Fury was even going to come close to competing with me. That's why I pretty much marked this week as a W. So that's why I was so keen on making a couple guys, hoping that a couple guys lost. All 3 guys I needed to lose lost. Love you, Jordan. Love you, Devin. Love you, Ty. But again, this is fantasy football. There's no fucking brotherhood here. We had Despacito versus the head receivers. Bernie coming through with a fucking huge upset, busting out 138 points on TJ, who only scored 89. Pat Mahomes, 50 fucking points, basically. We had TJ had 2 guys score 0, which, that shit just doesn't happen typically. I mean, but when you start Spencer Ware, that could happen, I guess. But Demaryius Thomas was not targeted. I don't understand what the fuck that problem was. Kiki QT, thankfully, Kiki QT was integrated back in the offense, which really saves me. I'll get to that in a little bit because I had some fucking problems and injuries to deal with overall. But yeah, that was Zach Ertz didn't show up. And unfortunately, that was a fucking solid keep. I think TJ kept him from last year. He drafted him in the 8th round, so he ended up only losing like a 4th, 5th round pick, whatever it was. Absolute steal. Was able to build a lineup around that. And Zach Ertz has been a fucking just animal this year. But Bernie ended up taking this one. Man, it's getting tight. It's getting tight here. We got Ben's the rapist, Scotty the truck driver coming through against Breeze and Season. Scott has like the 5th or 6th most points in the league, and he just has fallen on terrible luck. I think he's 2 and whatever. This is only his 2nd win of the year. I got him this week, but he's got no Robert Woods, so hopefully that's a good thing. Breeze and Season has been just riding the Drew Brees, Michael Thomas train, and Michael Thomas didn't have as good of a week this week. Philip Lindsay had a great week, but the rest of the guys just couldn't come through in the clutch, and Scott pulled out a 5-point W. Not My Commissioner versus Autism 316. Jordan needed to outscore Tyreek Hill and Todd Gurley with Greg Zuerlein. I think he was up by 20, I want to say, going into the week. And he's like, well, all I need is Gurley to not score Todd Gurley numbers. Well, that happened, but then Tyreek Hill put up a fucking 40 spot on you, and Jordan lost there. He's another one of the guys that was like biting at my heels. He's tied with me he was tied with me with the overall record. So that was a good loss for me personally. Randy, thank you so much. Appreciate it. But don't be too good. King of the North. The King of the North. He took down the adversary as Devin, also known as Devin for me. This was a huge loss for Devin. He's been riding a fucking hot streak. Kareem Hunt didn't come to play. Only scored, 21? Oh, he did come to play. 21 points. Carson Wentz didn't come to play. 1.27 out of your QB. Even though Jeremy only had 3.63 out of his QB, this was a great fucking matchup for quarterbacks. Apparently, MVS didn't show up either. Really risky play there, Devin, by playing him on a Thursday night in your flex. But we won't go there. Saquon, Julio, David Johnson, all these guys for Jeremy showed up, and he got the W against Devin. And I much needed that. Thank you so much, because now we have. I'll get to the reason why in a minute. The Forneticators versus the Mount Crumpet ski team. Ooh, this was a tough game going into last night because Ty had an absolute explosion out of Stephon Diggs, Antonio Brown, and Ben Roethlisberger late in those games and actually took the fucking lead. He just needed a little bit I think he needed like 15 out of Kelsey, but Kelsey was Kelsey and got 28.7. The Forneticators, thank you for that W, because I was able to leapfrog Ty, which leaves our standings as such. The King of the North at 10-1, 1,600 overall points. The Forneticators, number 2, at 9-2, 1,604 points. Not my commissioner. He's starting to get, little guys coming to chop on his bits there with the 1,695 of the lead this year. He's 8-3. He'll make the playoffs. I think the King of the North is the only one to clinch, and Forneticators, I believe, clinched as well now. So not my commissioner, should clinch. Despacito, he's pretty much going to make it, but just because of the schedule. But he is at 7-4. Right at 1,560 points. Right behind him is Pack Lives Matter, yours truly, at 6-5. And then this is where we get the big time, and this is where the points come into play. 1,437 for me. Skeet Squad put up a fucking egg, and I took a big point lead on him, which is 1,372. He's at 6-5 as well. Frings with that Mount Crumpet ski team with that fucking tie is 5-1 at 1,426. So he's just right behind me with point totals, but that shouldn't matter because there's not a chance anyone else is tying in this league. Autism 316 is also right there at 5-6. The reason he is right there because Devin and Ty play each other this week for the game of the fucking week. I'm calling it right now. Ty, sorry, but I'm calling this right now. You and Devin are the game of the fucking week. Jordan, if you can eke out a win, you're 1,364. Score a little bit more than Devin. You could make the playoffs still. I know he was talking about shopping DeAndre Hopkins potentially for a draft pick, but man, hang on to him. You legitimately have a chance to make it, and anything can happen if you make it into the final fantasy football, into the playoffs, because we got 2 guys going on by. Most likely that's going to be the King of the North, and the Forneticators, the slap happy people. And then we got Breeze in season at 4-7. He is just barely alive. I mean, we all have to go on losing streaks I have to lose both of mine. He has to outscore me by 50-something points. It's pretty much over for him, but there's always a chance. Head receivers at 2-8-1, 2-8-1, and then there's Ben's the Rapist at 2-9 with 1,358 points. He is, what is he at? He would be 6th. Yeah, well, pretty much close to 6th. Ball has 1,382, and he'd be up there. Wasn't for a couple of just throttling performances by other people. Whatever. Oh, those bushes are going down pretty good. And then you got Red Fury just bringing up the fucking tail here with 1,285, and him and Bernie are going to be competing for that golden Dusel, the Dusel. We don't know what you're going to be doing yet, but you got to do something. So for matchups this week, the reason I said that is because, man, we have Ty and Devin playing each other. So that means a lot of the playoff picture will be decided this week. We have me playing Scott, which, his record shows that he's an easy win, but his fucking team shows that he's not, because listen to this lineup he's got going out. He doesn't have Robert Woods, but man, he's got Aaron Rodgers, Mike Evans, Josh Gordon, all three guys boomable for over 30 points easily. Austin Eckler and Josh Adams. I like the Josh Adams play. Don't really like Austin Eckler this week, but he is playing against Arizona, so anything can fucking happen in that game. I'll be watching that game very intently because I have the starting running back for that team. So Trey Burton, Tyler Boyd, another one of those two guys that can just go off, and whatever, kicker and defense don't matter. So, and also I am dealing with a Kerryon Johnson injury that sucks big dick right now because he is probably going to be out for at least this week and next week. He's got a short week this week, so that's nice that we got the mini bye coming up. But man, I need him back because my receiver situation is dire because dumbass Tyler decided to drop Traquan Smith after his goose egg, and most likely he's not going to make it through waivers this week. So we also have just a few other good matchups. We need Jordan needs to come through and beat the Forniticators this week to have a shot at the playoffs. And let's see, Breeze in season has to knock off the King, and that's just not ever an easy task, especially since Jeremy doesn't have so many buys to deal with anymore. He's got he's the only one he's got to deal with is Brandon Cooks, and guess what? He fucking subs that in with Kenny Golladay on Thursday night or Thursday afternoon for Thanksgiving. It's going to be a tough one to beat, Ball. I wish you good luck, but I don't think this is going to happen. This is not your year. Red Fury versus Despacito. We won't even go there. TJ, you got that W. And then Randy versus the head receivers. I think Randy's going to come through in this one, and Randy will clinch a playoff spot officially this week. So we got that out of the way. We got the waiver wire pickups this week, and I think there's a few, actually. We got Gus the Bus Edwards. Who the fuck is that? Where did he come from? And the way he ran, I watched the game again just because I was like, oh, well, who the fuck is this guy? Because he showed up and had over 100 yards and scored and looked great with Lamar Jackson, undrafted free agent for the Ravens. He's out-snapping Alex Collins. I think Alex Collins only played 50% of snaps. And he looks like a fucking beast running the ball. He's just a truck. And he's a guy that you probably should target on the waivers, and it's waiver wire week or waiver wire night tonight. Another guy is Cortland Sutton. If someone drops him, hint, whoever that is. And Josh Adams, is I already said, is on Scott's roster. He's been great with picking up guys. And another guy that I won't mention because I want him on my lineup because he blew up for 10 receptions for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns after I dropped him. And I have been hurting for wide receivers. So that fucking blows. Let's take a look at the defensive streamers this week. We got Dallas is probably a good pickup this week. They've been playing strong in general, so they're not a bad pickup just in general. But if you unfortunately watched that horrific leg injury by Alex Smith, which, by the way, it was 33 years to the fucking day that Joe Theismann snapped his leg against Lawrence Taylor. If you are a football historian, the final score was also the same, and Joe Theismann was in attendance of that game because he was honored at halftime. Fucking weird. I don't believe in much, but man, that's bizarre. And we have we're going to have Colt McCoy playing in this matchup, which I kind of like in DraftKings if you are playing a Thanksgiving Day DraftKings. But ultimately, I don't think anything's. If you're playing tournaments, go ahead and play him. But man, I don't really foresee a whole lot of happening with that. So Dallas should thrive as far as a defense goes that you can stream this week. Tight ends looking a little thin, but quarterbacks, pick up Jameis Winston, pick up Lamar Jackson if they are still available. But other than that, most likely there's not going to be a ton available on the waivers. A defense like Buffalo may be available on your waiver wire, just for the simple fact being they're playing the Jaguars, so both of those defenses are definitely playable this week. that's just about it for waiver wire pickups that are like important, I do believe, because I think a lot of the other guys, Josh Reynolds comes into mind, but TJ has him. Malcolm Brown, if you do not have Malcolm Brown on your fucking lineup or on your roster, go get him right now. He might not do anything, but my reasoning is once the Rams won that game, and if they happen to lose one more game, they're most likely going to be sitting Todd Gurley for the championship. Now, if you have a chance at the playoffs, grab him. Randy, I'm sorry, but if Todd Gurley is sitting on week 16, you might have to find another running back because Malcolm Brown, I don't know what was going on yesterday, but he got a lot of goal line red zone carries, and Todd Gurley only scored 12 points. So I'm thinking there's a non-disclosed injury happening here, and right before the bye, they didn't want to overdo it. But I still don't see why they wouldn't go for it. I mean, they're still fucking in contention. If Saints lose one more game, Rams win out. I mean, Christ, they have home field throughout the playoffs. I mean, home field is a quote-unquote home field because if you saw last night, there was a lot of red in that stadium. So it was just imminent of the Packers. It was just similar to the Packers game a week ago or so. But other than that, we also have Gio Bernard is another solid handcuff pickup. Theo Riddick is a solid handcuff pickup just for this week. I think he's going to be integrated in. LeGarrette Blount, I mean, if you're really desperate, you could probably pick up LeGarrette Blount just because he's going to get the goal line carries. They're not going to give it to Theo Riddick as much. I might begrudgingly pick up LeGarrette Blount this week, but I'm probably going to stick with Kiki QT. But other than that, I mean, Christ, the guy has had 21 carries. I think he's got 16 yards in his last 20 carries or something to that effect, something ridiculous, which is what I've been bitching about all fucking year. And then guess what? You play Kerryon Johnson, you start winning, and you start getting production out of your running back. What a goddamn shock that is. Play your most talented guy, Mike McCarthy. Maybe you can take a page out of that fucking playbook. That just brings me to Mike McCarthy. I'm just going to do a little 2-minute rant session on Mike McCarthy. You have guys like Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott, Todd Gurley before this week, Alvin Kamara. All these guys get over 20 touches a game almost every fucking week. And look what they do. They are fantasy studs, your team rolls, everything to that effect. Aaron Jones is probably, if not the most talented, the second most talented player on that team, and he's getting less than 15 most weeks. Mike McCarthy, give him the fucking ball. He's a good goddamn ball player. That's it. That's all I gotta say. I know you're probably fucking tired of me bitching about the Packers, but here's the thing. The fucking Packers always find a way to be relevant at the end of the year. After watching last night, I started laughing because I'm like, whoa, the Packers are nowhere fucking near these two fucking teams. But they just almost beat the Rams like a week ago, 2 weeks ago. But Carolina lost, Minnesota lost. I think the division is pretty much wrapped in Chicago's hands, barring a major catastrophic implosion, which could still happen. They are still the fucking Bears, so be ready, Packer Nation. They might give it to you. And I'm not going to hold my breath. I think that it's the Packers division. I think the Packers are more wild card bound. Panthers lost. Minnesota Vikings lost. Packers are now only a game out of the wild card spot. And Dallas is right there as well. But since Alex Smith's injury, I think Dallas has a good fucking chance to take a hold of that division. They've been playing pretty well lately since they got Amari Cooper, ironically. And I've been really, really adamant that that was not the right call. But hey, Jerry Jones, way to give up a first round. I'm sure you couldn't have gotten a stud wide receiver with that first round pick. All right. That just about does it for that section of the podcast. Let's see where we're at as far as time goes. Oh, we're still rolling with the YouTube live. So thank you so much, everyone, for listening. I know you see, I know you love my Christmas tree. Those boxes in the back there are just a great decoration. All right, we're going to start now the episode of the Sunday Bloody or the Sunday cranberry juice vodka thing, whatever you fucking drink on Thanksgiving, Sunday beer, Sunday Bloody, just because it's not a normal week as far as, we normally have one Thursday night game. So I don't usually include that and just like whatever, it is what it is. But there's three, and it's a pretty, they're pretty fantasy relevant games, especially when you're talking about the Falcons and the Saints game Thursday night, which is a fucking great game. It should be fun to watch, even though the Saints are just playing outrageous. 45 in 3 straight games. They have hit 40 points 6 times this year. That is the NFL record, and it is week fucking 12. Hats off to you, Sean Payton. After the first week and the second week, I thought, oh shit, that defense is terrible. And then the third week, oh shit, the defense is bad still. Now the defense is playing well. The offense is just fucking clicking. 39-year-old Drew Brees is just torching people. He's doing whatever. He has almost an 80% completion percentage. Granted, there are a lot of dump off passes, and granted, his guys are wide open because of Sean Payton's pretty solid offensive mind. It does help to have 2 running back ones. I mean, that helps when you have Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram, but besides the point, they're playing really well. Should be a fun game to watch. Should be fantasy relevant, both sides of the ball. All right, we got just enough, just in time to start the Sunday Bloody with a new drink, Busch Light number 2. Okay, so we're starting off the week with Thursday, November 22nd, Thanksgiving Day. The Lions love their Thanksgiving, 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time, so 11:30 Central for all you people in the Greater Winters Dozen listening area. I know this isn't broadcast. I know I'm not a fucking idiot. All right, Bears -3 at the Lions. The Bears have been playing outrageously well. I think I might. Oh, excuse me. I might look back at the podcast that I did where Randy was so adamant at a couple of things, and I'll get to the second point in a minute because I do believe he offered a large wager. But I won't talk about that right now. We're going to talk about the Bears and the Lions because as a Packer fan, it does hurt me to say this, but the Bears have a fantasy relevant quarterback for the first time in a really, really long. Can't remember the last super relevant, Jay Cutler, I guess you could say, but fuck him. We got Mitchell Trubisky, who, Jordan, again, hats off with the call. I didn't believe in it whatsoever, but he is pulling out that floor. He is a fucking definite quarterback 1 this week against a weak-ass Lions team. The Bears defense is one of the top 5 plays this week against a fucking Lions team that loves to throw the ball to the other team and loves to give up a bunch of sacks. You have Anthony Miller catching a lot of touchdowns. Taylor Gabriel, Allen Robinson, all these guys are startable. Trey Burton, you can't not start Trey Burton. My thing is he's not like a sexy pick like he was at the beginning of the year, but like, who are you going to start instead of him? You're going to go find a waiver wire guy? Good luck with that. I mean, Gerald Everett caught 2 touchdowns last night, but he can't pick him up this week, obviously, because he's on a bye, but you're not picking anyone up and starting them with any form of confidence. I mean, what are you going to start? Jeff Hireman over him? CJ Herndon? I got his name right this time. You're not going to do that. So you're going to start Trey Burton. He's still in the top 12. You can still roll with him each week, even though he's been kind of underperforming, but he has been catching touchdowns. I don't know. He's got that touchdown upside. And what pains to say, a dynamic Bears offense, you have a lot of options there, as well as their defense. I mean, the Bears are a fucking complete team, and I hate to say it, but they're the fucking cream of the crop in the division. Wow. Remember when I said they were a sneaky playoff team in the beginning of the year and everybody's talk shit? Whoops. That was a bad move. Anyway, the Lions, I would probably hesitate to start Matt Stafford this week. Although if you have to, you have to, just because of the 2 main quarterbacks on bye. I get it, Mahomes and Goff. Chances are, if you have both of those guys, you've had now dropped every other quarterback. And Russell Wilson will be available after this week. I have been holding on to him just to play him this week, but Jared Goff has been playing so outrageous that he's there. Stop talking about your fucking fantasy team, Tyler. My bad. I'm so sorry. I can't help it. But, nobody wants to fucking hear about your fantasy football team. I know nobody wants to hear about anybody else's fantasy football team. I get it. I'm so sorry. I apologize, YouTube community. I apologize, iTunes or whoever else is listening to this, wherever you're listening to this. Thank you for being patient with me and me talking to myself. Kenny Galladay, you can start. Theo Riddick on the flex. I like him on the flex. Do not start LeGarrette Blount unless you absolutely have to. Anyone else? Wayne Ellington is a sneaky play if Marvin Jones Jr. doesn't play. He does get targeted a lot. Wayne Ellington does not like to score. That's been his knack all his career. He's never been able to stay healthy. Am I saying Wayne Ellington? Like the fucking... Is it Bruce Ellington? Oh my God. Wayne Ellington plays for the fucking Miami Heat. I'm so sorry. Bruce Ellington. My bad. That was a little alcohol talking. We need to drink more. So if you're in the car, take a sip. All right, but does it for Lions, guys. Just don't start any tight ends for the Lions as of right now. So pretty much sit everybody else. Like I said, sit LeGarrette Blount, sit Matthew Stafford. Although Stafford does like to play very well, I wouldn't be surprised. I am taking the Lions in this game, actually, just because of that Thanksgiving Day allure. I don't suspect a huge game out of Stafford, but I suspect a fucking trench warfare game. Don't mind what I said before about starting. This is just my gut feeling. You know what, Tyler? No, just be fucking honest. This is what you want to see happen because you want to see the Bears fucking lose. But the fantasy football side of me says Bears win this game pretty handily. I'm going to stick with that. The Bears win. All right, we got the Redskins at the Cowboys. You got the fucking allure of a great Redskins game, Redskins Cowboys matchup, and Thanksgiving. What more could you fucking want other than Colt McCoy playing for the Redskins? So that's the reason why the 7.5 point favorite at Dallas. For the reason of Colt McCoy and what I saw last week, I believe Jordan Reed is a legitimate back to Jordan Reed type of tight end. He's a very fucking solid play. The Cowboys haven't been great against tight ends this year. Adrian Peterson, if you have he's flexible this week. He's definitely flexible. If you have other options, I would probably bench Adrian Peterson this week because I don't believe they're going to be playing from ahead at all. And you saw last week that he was able to get in the end zone twice, but he was largely ineffective other than those two scores. Redskins wide receivers, sit all of them. You do not want to play any Redskins wide receivers for the time being until one clear guy comes ahead. Maurice Harris is a smart pickup if you don't have him already, but he's just not been looking that great lately. So I like... Oh shit! Am I still streaming here? Yes, I am. Good. I just had multiple tabs open. I'm a little scatterbrained. For the Cowboys, you're obviously starting Zeke. Dak, you can stream again safely. He's probably quarterback 12 to 14 this week. Not great matchup, but again, it's Thanksgiving and he offers you that running floor. Didn't get it last week, but this week I do believe Dak Prescott is a 20-point-ish type of performer. I would stay away from all Cowboys wide receivers not named Amari Cooper, and only Amari Cooper if you do not have other options as a wide receiver. He is flexible, but only flexible. He still is not cemented in the wide receiver 1 or 2 category yet. I think it was a good move. It's a good move now that it happened for the Dallas Cowboys, but they gave up way too fucking much for him. I mean, he's not a wide receiver. He's not a guy you spend a first round pick on at this stage of his career. He's going to be needing a paycheck soon. If it was a rookie deal, if he was a rookie, yes, go spend a first round pick. He's got that kind of talent. But right now, you're getting him for half a year and then you're going to have to pay him. So I don't even know why I fucking said that because I'm not even sure what the salary cap situation is with Amari Cooper. That's just assumption. I think that's what it is. But anyway, yeah, you probably can start Amari Cooper. But again, if you flex him, Devin, if you plan on flexing him, Devin, or anybody else that does this, put him in your wide receiver category and not in your flex position. Because if you put him in your flex position and you only have one flex spot, you really handcuff yourself for the future. Because let's say, for instance, Melvin Gordon has a hamstring injury, which happened a few weeks ago. And then now your flex spot is taken up. Now you have to start another running back. And let's say your running back, your third running back on your team, fourth running back on your team is better than your fourth wide receiver on your team. Now you can't even make that decision between, or if you want to start a tight end in your flex spot, you cannot fucking make that decision. You are stuck with that flex spot taken. And now you're really limited as far as the fantasy perspective goes. So put him in your wide receiver spot, put your normal starting wide receiver. The points don't fucking differ. Just put him in your wide receiver. Be smart with that. So don't flex Amari Cooper this week. Put him in your wide receiver starting spot if you're playing him, even though he's not a wide receiver 1 or 2. That's how fantasy football works. Ooh, the Falcons and the Saints. I'm taking the Cowboys in that one. I think they're going to run by over 10. I think you probably can bet on them, and you could probably take them with the points. Yeah, I like that game. Thursday, November 22nd, October, 8:20 p.m. Eastern time, 7:20 Central. Falcons at the Saints. The Saints minus 13. Before I get started in talking, the Saints minus 13 is what I'm taking. And also before I get started talking, if you want some Winter's Dozen gear, go on redbubble.com. I just saw an ad specifically for me. And hey, my stuff was on there. So go ahead and fucking click on that ad, go shopping, get some Redbubble stuff from our site. We get money for it. So thanks. But as far as the Falcons go, Tevin Coleman is a guy you can flex this week. He's not a starter. He's not a running back 2 right now, but especially against the Saints, I think he's going to have a high floor with catches this week. Julio Jones is always going to be in your starting lineup. And Calvin Ridley, I would probably bench Calvin Ridley this week because if you've watched some of those Saints games, they are hell at this point. They figured out how to play, and their defense is back to where it was last year. They're creating a ton of turnovers. So Matt Ryan is another one of those guys that I don't want to say it, but I think you can sit him this week if you have a better option or there's a better option available on the waiver wire. So let's take a look at what's available on the waiver wire potentially in your league, because I didn't even think about that. I think Jameis Winston and Lamar Jackson are both guys you can start over Matt Ryan this week. I said it here first. I believe both of those guys offer a higher fucking ceiling for sure. And Lamar Jackson offers that running floor because he had, 50 yards in the first drive. He had over 100 yards rushing, which is a 10-point game. He didn't have a great passing game, but that's 10 points right there. Just you start the game, let's say, with 7 points because he's going to get 60, 70 yards. They ran 77% of their snaps. That's insane in today's NFL. And they won. So it was a reason they did it. And they're playing fucking Oakland. So you can probably start Lamar Jackson this week over a lot of guys, especially Matt Ryan. So put him in there. Why not? Give it a fucking chance. You have any balls? You have balls? Start Lamar Jackson over Matt Ryan. The Saints, the fucking cast of characters you're starting. You're starting Drew Brees. You're starting Alvin Kamara. You're starting Michael Thomas. You're flexing Mark Ingram. And I hate to say it, but you can probably start Traquan Smith this week because Atlanta's defense fucking sucks. I mean, you can even start Ben Watson this week if you are stuck at your tight end position. So go ahead, start Ben Watson. I got the Saints, like I said before. So the best game of the week on Sunday, we have the Jaguars at the Bills. It's going to be a fucking barn burner. I think the over-under, it's not in front of me, but I think the over-under is 37 points. Going to be great. Neither team scored 37 last night in the KC LA game. there you have it. Don't start anybody not named Leonard Fournette. And the defense. That's pretty much all you got this week. I don't like anybody else from either team. You're not starting Shady against the good Jaguars defense. And you can start both defenses. You can start Leonard Fournette. I'm not going to spend much time on that. Browns at Bengals. I think Baker Mayfield is a sexy start this week as a streamer. You got Nick Chubb. Who else is available? You have not available. Nick Chubb's better not be available. Why the fuck can't I think of his goddamn name? He's my starting tight end. David Njoku. Jesus Christ, that was a bad one. You saw that happen. You saw a actual stroke happen live on YouTube and listening live. I legitimately could not think of his name. Yes, you can start David Njoku this week. Jarvis Landry. That just about does it for pass catchers. Duke Johnson. You can start Duke Johnson as a flex if you're really desperate. Start Duke Johnson. He's going to catch a lot of balls out of the backfield ever since that offensive coordinator changed and they fired Hugh Jackson or whatever the fuck his name is. Go ahead. Start Duke Johnson. Jesus, stroking out bad. Need more beer. For the Bengals side of the football, I would probably fade from Andy Dalton this week. He's not all year, but I think you can probably sit him this week and stream someone else. I don't know what the status of AJ Green is. I'm thinking he's not going to play this week. So Tyler Boyd, good solid start this week. CJ Uzomah had a little bit better towards his potential last week, but he's not being targeted in the red zone whatsoever. Joe Mixon, go ahead and start Joe Mixon. He's a great fucking player. I got the Browns in this one. Why the fuck not? Let's go run that Baker train. He's had 2 touchdowns at least in his last 4 games. So he's been playing solid. Go ahead and play Baker Mayfield. He's fun to watch. Patriots at Jets. This is going to be another one of those type of games. Pretty much don't start anybody from the Jets. I don't really see any fantasy relevance other than Herndon. If you have no tight end options, you can start CJ Herndon this week. But other than that, is it CJ Herndon, Chris Herndon? I don't know what the hell his name is. But anyway, you can start that guy. Again, I'm having problems with that guy's name. Patriots, Tom Brady, James White, Sony Michel, Josh Gordon. Am I missing anybody? Nobody else. I think I would probably sit everybody else outside of those 5 guys. Patriots defense also very, very, very solid play this week. Do not start the Jets defense this week. Patriots are 7.5-point favorites on the road, and I am taking the Patriots this week with the points. I think 10 points is a good fucking number that they will win by. Giants at the Eagles. Divisional matchup, which is actually relevant as far as divisional titles go. I mean, Christ, the Eagles are right there. What are the Giants' record? What's their record? I don't really know offhand, so I'm going to look it up real quick. So I'm going to keep stalling. I can barely talk and do anything at the same time. I want to say they're 3-7. Let's see here. 3-7 for the Giants is what I'm thinking. They're still technically alive at 3-7, which is kind of weird to say, but God damn it, this is last week's. Okay, well, fuck it. The Giants aren't going to go anywhere, so that's it. Giants are 3-7. Yeah. Okay, so you can start. Let's see. Last week they were torched, but it was Drew Brees. So I would probably shy away from starting Eli Manning this week. He's been a pretty solid stream the last couple weeks, but I would probably sit him this week. Saquon, Odell Beckham, both starts. Man, this bush is so carbonated. Evan Ingram, sit him if you have a better option. He's just not been performing. He's not been being targeted. Sterling Shepard is a decent flex if you don't have anybody else, I think. But again, I would, you know what? Yeah, start Sterling Shepard this week because Traquan out of the slot last week fucking murdered the Eagles defense. So I think you're pretty safe starting him just for the 5-6 catches he's going to get. Eagles, Wentz, yeah, start Carson Wentz unless you have an absolute better option. Anybody else from that team? Josh Adams, I think you can start him too, just because the Giants defense are still a Giants defense. They're not a very good team in general. So you can start that dude. Start Alshon Jeffrey. Stay away from Golden Tate just yet. Zach Ertz is, of course, in your starting lineup, but stay away from Golden Tate just because they're trying to get him the ball in smart ways, but he's just not relevant yet. He was traded at the worst time because I think going forward, Golden Tate is a very valuable player fantasy wise. Next year, I think he's going to be a sneaky play for like a 10th round pick. Could get a lot of catches. He's going to be that Nelson Aguilar type with way better skill. Because if you remember last year and this year, Nelson Aguilar without Alshon Jeffrey in the lineup has been a fucking actually relevant player. He's not been bad. I mean, he's not been good this year, but the first couple games, he was fucking catching 7, 8, 9 balls and then, 20-something yards. But I think a guy that's more athletic, more capable, like Golden Tate is, I do believe he is a guy you can take in the 10th or earlier rounds next year. We're already planning for next year's draft. Cannot wait. We're going to have some good content coming forward. But anyway, that's just a shameless plug for the Winter's Dozen fans. But yeah, so I think, again, those are the guys that you can sit and start for the Giants-Eagles game. Eagles are -6 in this game. I think it's going to be closer than that. I'm taking the Giants with the points, but I'm taking the Eagles to outright win. I think the Giants will win the Eagles will win by 3 to 4 points on a late score from Carson Wentz to Alshon Jeffrey. Okay, cool. 49ers at Buccaneers. Now, the Buccaneers own the quarterback 2 in overall fantasy football production. But granted, that's across 2 guys because sometimes they decide, hey, we're just going to pull this one because they're throwing 6, 7 picks. And then that guy comes in and blows up. So I don't know. It's hard to start Jameis Winston, but he does offer that big time fucking ceiling. 49ers. You can just about sit everybody except Breida, and Goodwin is a good fucking flyer flex this week. Now, let's say you have a couple of guys. You got Zeke Elliott. Let's just theorize here. You got Zeke Elliott, and you have Tariq Cohen. That's a pretty viable thing that could happen, right? You could have both of those guys. Both shit the bed. Both shit the bed on Thursday. Pick up Marquise Goodwin because the fucking Buccaneers suck so bad. Not a bad play. Not a bad play at all this week. George Kittle, you're starting George Kittle. Buccaneers, I already spoke about Jameis Winston. Peyton Barber has been looking pretty solid, but again, he's not a guy you can really trust. He's flexible, but again, I would probably sit him. Jaquiz Rodgers is a guy that's interesting because the 49ers are bad on defense, but again, unless you're really desperate, just stick with your guns. Don't be playing anybody that's crazy. That just about does it. Mike Evans, of course. Deshaun Jackson, he's flexible this week. But other than that, I don't like Humphreys at all. He had a good 1 week, but that's it. Seahawks at Panthers. Seattle Seahawks are the Seattle Seahawks. They're not predictable whatsoever. And so as far as running backs goes, I mean, unless you have Chris Carson, he's the only one that I believe is flexible. Mike Davis and Rashad Penny are solely game script based. Sorry, I thought someone was breaking into my apartment. And yeah, so that's about it. That's all you can get. And babe? All right, sorry about that. Okay, sorry. There's a lot of noises happening, and I'm upstairs, and it's weird. All right, so where was I? Oh, yeah. Don't start any tight ends. You can start Russell Wilson this week. It's a pretty decent matchup against the Panthers defense. Outside of that, Doug Baldwin, don't chase the points like he had last week. He's not a viable fantasy player as of right now unless he puts up 2 straight weeks. If you have a buys, he's flexible. But other than that, stay away from starting Doug Baldwin this week. Cam Newton, you're starting. Christian McCaffrey is his name, that white guy that's running back. You're starting him, and you're also not starting anybody else. DJ Moore is fun to theorize about. He's also a guy that I probably would stay away from this week. Seattle plays pretty well against the second wide receivers, and Devin Funchess is a tight end in a wide receiver spot, so probably sit him as well. If you're starting Devin Funchess as one of your number one or number two wide receivers, there's a good chance you're not in the playoffs anyways, so you don't give a shit. And it's tough to play either one of those guys if you're viable at all in fantasy football. Whew, we're done with number 2. Let's bust up number 3 and get to these last few games of the week. Got a few more. Raiders at Ravens. I'll make this nice and easy. Don't start anyone from the Raiders. Start the Ravens defense with full steam ahead. Last week's win was nothing. It was against the Arizona Cardinals, who are also gunning for that number 1 spot. And the Raiders won and lost at the same time because now they don't have that number 1 pick secured. They're right there with the Arizona Cardinals. Although Arizona looks better on offense. Jesus Christ, I feel like there's someone in my apartment. So if you're listening to this live and this podcast never gets released, just assure that I've been murdered, and I'm not going to give out my address on the internet, but I've been murdered. So that's what happened. Just to let you guys know. Ravens wise, Gus Edwards, I don't think you start him this week just because I don't know if he's going to be the fucking starter. I don't know if it was a hot hand type situation, but pick him up for sure and monitor him big time because I might start him if I end up getting this claim, which I don't think I will, but because we're archaic and we don't use fab bucks. So next year maybe, but running back wise, don't start Alex Collins this week. It sucks because he might score 3 touchdowns against the fucking Raiders, but you just can't trust him at all. I like the John Brown play. I also like the Lamar Jackson play a lot. So those are the only fantasy relevant type of players, and the Ravens defense and Justin Tucker. If you still have kickers or whatever your kicker is, start him because no one gives a shit. Cardinals at the Chargers. Now, this is an interesting matchup because I do like a lot of Cardinals plays in this one. I like Christian Kirk because he is the deep threat. So it's one of those situations where monitor Thursday night. If you have a couple players that shit the bed Thursday, maybe Christian Kirk is a fucking dart throw that you want to put out there. He's not a terrible play this week against the Chargers. Larry Fitzgerald, flexible. He is finally fantasy relevant. He had 2 catches last week for 26 yards. Thankfully, both of them were for touchdowns, and he gave you 16 points, which is all you fucking want of Larry Fitzgerald at this point of his career. He should be getting targeted more, but it's the name of the game. And that's David Johnson, of course. Don't start the defense. It's a decent defense, but again, not against the Chargers at home. Chargers are 11.5 point favorites. Oh shit, I forgot to pick games, the last ones. I got the Ravens, I got the Panthers, and I got the Bucks. Okay, that does it. All right. Chargers, you have Austin Eckler is flexible, even though I don't love the play. Melvin Gordon, you're playing. Phillip Rivers, you're playing. Keenan Allen, you're playing. And everybody else, they're just dart throws. So if you want to play Tyrell Williams as a dart throw, man, I feel sorry for your fantasy lineup. That's it. That's all I have to fucking say about that. So then to move on, I have the Chargers in this one winning handily. I don't really want to touch that 11.5 point spread because anything can happen. And it's just one of those things where if you're up by 12 against the Cardinals, do you really give a shit if they score a field goal, if they kick a field goal? No. So just kind of meh. Just don't touch that spread. I usually don't touch any double-digit spreads unless it's like Patriots versus the Titans. Oh, wait, what happened there? The fucking Titans won. Oh, yeah, that's right. Anyway, Steelers versus the Broncos. Steelers minus 3.5 at the Broncos. The Broncos defense has not been performing this year, although I do like the Steelers defense stream this week against Case Keenum. Love that play. It might be my DraftKings start this week because they're probably going to be coming in around $2,600. They're getting turnovers, and Case Keenum likes to throw those. So I got Ben Roethlisberger you're playing, Antonio Brown you're playing, Juju you're playing, James Conner you're playing. Everybody else, James Washington isn't really a flexible player as of yet. So steer clear of everybody else. Vance McDonald, if he's still available on your waiver wire, pick him up because he's been pretty viable. Jesse James, don't play him. I mean, you don't want to play the second tier of a tight end that's volatile. So just steer clear of him. He had that one good game, but that's nothing. For the Broncos wise, sit the defense this week. Steelers are just too good offensively, and they're just last week it was an anomaly, even though they won last week, but they don't play that poorly, and the Jaguars defense had a lot to do with that. So you shouldn't be playing the Broncos defense. I like Phillip Lindsay. Royce Freeman, I don't love. He might even be available. So if you have a spot start that you need because of buys, pick up Royce Freeman. But again, I don't think he's even startable at this point. Case Keenum, of course, he's not. Emmanuel Sanders is a very good play this week just because the defense has not been great, but they've been forcing a lot of turnovers. So Emmanuel Sanders might get his 6-7 catches for 60, 70 yards and a touchdown. Wouldn't be surprised. Jeff Hireman, again, like I said before, he's like the tight end 14 probably this week, 10 and 15. So if you need him, play him. But other than that, there's probably better options available on the waiver wire. Dolphins at Colts. Andrew Luck has been playing his fucking balls off lately. He's been one of the most productive quarterbacks this year. And Dolphins, I don't like anybody. I like Kenyon Drake as a flex. Frank Gore, if you absolutely fucking need a spot start, you can go pick up Frank Gore. He's probably available, but just for goal line touches or for just your 60 yards that, if you need 6 points out of a flex position and that's all you need, you can go ahead and start Frank Gore. But other than that, I don't love this for a fantasy perspective by any Dolphins. Colts, I like their defense, even though they've not been performing, but they do score touchdowns sometimes. So it might be a nice, not a bad play DraftKings-wise. Marlon Mack, startable this week as a flex. I wouldn't really start. I don't think he's a running back 1 or 2 this week, but other than that, T.Y. Hilton torched last week. Solid fucking play against the Dolphins. Xavier Howard and Minka Fitzpatrick, again, tend to shut down number 1 wide receivers. So you could look at the Eric Ebron, Jack Doyle play. Both of them are viable this week. If you own both, they're both viable. It's weird to say that 2 tight ends are viable from the same team, but they are. Jack Doyle and Eric Ebron, both viable options this week. Which brings me to the Packers and the Vikings. And here's what I was saying before about Randy. And he said, bro, or whatever, however Randy talks, bro, I'll bet my mortgage that the Vikings have over 9 wins. You want to still take that bet, Randy? I think I said, no, I'm not doing that because I'm not basing it. But Kirk Cousins, they paid him to be a franchise quarterback. Like I said earlier, I've been saying all year, he's a fine quarterback. He's decent in fantasy. He doesn't win fucking games. I don't know what it is about him. I don't know. He's a decent quarterback. He makes his throws. He doesn't know how to fucking win. And I don't get it. But he's not. He's an okay quarterback. He's not a $90 million quarterback. He's just not. And the Vikings are seeing it this year. They were they were healthy all year last year, and now what? They're 5-5-1. Granted, the Packers aren't good, or 5-4, whatever the fuck they are. They're not good. Nor are the Packers. And that sucks for me to say, but the Packers just aren't good right now. They need to fucking get their heads out of their own ass. They're very talented, and I think that's a close game this week. I'm not even going to pick a fucking winner because I think the Packers they need to win this game. It's an absolute winnable game. They need to win. I'm taking the Packers because I'm a fucking homer and I don't give a shit. But man, Aaron Rodgers, startable. Aaron Jones might be a league winner this year if you have him, and Mike McCarthy starts giving the ball. Davante Adams, another one of those league winner type of players. Cheers channel for drafting him in the first round. I was very skeptical, like I said in my other previous podcast, but man, he's been a beast. And he's just good for 9 catches for 100+ yards and a touchdown. Jimmy Graham, do not start him this week. He might be playing. Do not start him. He's got a broken thumb. He can barely catch he can. He's fine. He's fine. Don't just chill out, Tyler. Chill the fuck out. He's not been extremely productive with a thumb. So without a thumb, and you need a thumb to catch the ball, I would probably not start him. So find another tight end elsewhere. Robert Tonyan, Lance Kendricks, two guys that you don't need to even consider playing that yet, unless they're really integrated. Mercedes Lewis, another one of those things. Just don't integrate them yet. Marquez Valdez-Scantling is a guy that don't look too much into last week's performance. He's a viable player. He just didn't catch the ball last week. He didn't get any targets. So it's a bad game script, and he was a victim of it. The Vikings players you can play, whatever their wide receivers are, go ahead and play them because the Packers have nobody on defense anymore. They're all injured. Okay, chill out. Chill the fuck out. Mike Daniels is going to miss some significant time, so you can probably start Dalvin Cook this week out of the backfield. He's going to catch the ball. He's going to do Kirk Cousins, another player you can start this week. Packers defense, another team that you can start because of sacks. They've been leading the league in sacks. What the fuck? How's that possible? But they have been. Well, they're not leading the league. They're right up there, though. I don't know what their exact number is, but I know Kyler Fackrell is coming on. Tyler, don't get into too much of the Packers. Okay, so you can start the Packers defense, and I would shy away from starting the Vikings defense just because Aaron Rodgers tends to show up in games such as this Sunday night game at the Vikings, familiar opponent. I'm taking the Packers in this one. Money line. Fuck it. Or with the spread. Titans at the Texans. I think this is an interesting game because it's not going to be very viewed, especially with the great commentating that is the Monday Night Crew. But anyway, I think for the Titans, do not start Blaine Gabbert or anybody that's the quarterback right now for the Titans. The Texans, there's no line in this game right now. I don't know if that's just because it's early or what, but I think that the Texans are pretty well favored in this game. If it stays as a pick'em game, you put your money on the Texans this week. So take the Texans. I'm taking the Texans, but Titans wise, do not start Derrick Henry if you have other options. Probably start someone else. As far as Deion Lewis goes, he's getting the workload, so you can probably start him. You can start Jonnu Smith. I think his 6 targets for 40 yards last week were pretty indicative that they do like him. He's the Delaney Walker 2.0 or whatever the lower version of 1.0 is a 0.5 version of Delaney Walker. They like him in the red zone. They've shown it before. So Jonnu Smith is a guy you can probably stream this week. He's probably in the top 10 for tight end plays. Corey Davis is the only relevant wide receiver on the Titans. If he gets targeted, he blows up. If he doesn't, he fucking has 5 points like he did last week. He had 2 catches for 30 yards. He needs the fucking ball to perform. He's a very talented player. Start him this week, especially in your flex if you need a boom type of player, because I think it's happening. Texans defense, all over the Texans defense this week. Most likely, if you have the Texans defense, it's not like you're going to drop them going into Tennessee. So I would start them this week just because of the sack numbers they're going to get, the interception numbers they're going to get. If Blaine Gabbert's playing, it's not going to be good for Blaine Gabbert. I'm sorry. But Texans, you can play DeAndre Hopkins. Of course, Kiki QT is a very sexy. Ooh, chill out, Tyler. He's not a sexy man. I don't know how he's a decent looking guy. I like him. But I don't know if I like him that way. But he is a startable player this week in your flex. He's in my flex because of Carry-On's stupid injury. But again, don't talk about your fantasy football team, Tyler. Deshaun Watson, play him. Lamar Miller, you can play Lamar Miller as your flex running back. Wow. We got through it as a team. We got through this as a team. We're at 1 hour and 8 minutes of me talking straight and drinking beers. So thank you so much for tuning in to the Thanksgiving episode spectacular. Thank you for listening on iTunes or wherever you're listening to on SoundCloud. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes to this podcast if you like it. Check us out on Instagram on Winters Dozen FFL. We now have a YouTube page. Same thing. Winters Dozen FFL on YouTube. My gamer page has not been going as good as I wanted it to be. If you watch me on YouTube, you can see my head just bouncing around like crazy because I don't know. I think I have ADD. I mean, why the fuck not? Nobody said whatever. But check us out on YouTube. I might be changing the overall thing with that. Not a ton of people really have been giving me positive feedback about the video game thing, which is fine. I mean, thank you for that. I won't continue to make stuff and spend time on doing stuff if it's not very good. So again, make sure you check that out. Check out our Redbubble store. Winters Dozen FFL on there as well. We have a couple t-shirts available. I'm going to try to get some more content out there. I've just been so fucking busy, and it is Thanksgiving. So that's why I made a longer episode for all of you guys, especially you, Randy. Thank you so much for listening to me talk. I know you don't love me as a person, but it's fine. It's okay. It is okay. And I have an hour and 10 minutes in to this podcast. It has been crazy. It has been fun. Thank you so much for listening. Good luck on your fantasy football stuff. Good luck dealing with your fucking family this week, and enjoy Thanksgiving to its fullest. Peace the fuck out. We're ending this stream, ending this podcast right now.